You quiet motherfucker. Welcome back. You ever notice how the loudest ones in the room are usually the weakest? Yeah. They bark, they boast, they bluff. But you? You sat there, mouth shut, dead silent, like a loaded gun under the table, calm, watching, storing everything. While they danced around, lying through their teeth, you didn't need to say a word, because you had eyes that saw everything, and they knew it. Oh yeah, they felt it. They still feel it. That cold, calm stare. That shit haunts people. They thought you were stupid, that you didn't catch on. They thought silence meant ignorance. But you were just letting them talk, letting them slip, letting them reveal their whole game like amateurs trying to outbluff a loaded deck. You weren't dumb. You were dangerous. You clocked every fake smile, every backhanded compliment, every room that got quiet when you walked in, every name they whispered, every mask they wore. You could see through it all, because people wear their truths in how they act when they think you're not looking. And you never stopped looking. And now, they can't look you in the eye, because they know. You know. You didn't need to explode, didn't need to scream, didn't need to expose anyone. You let reality rot them from the inside. And that's what terrifies them now. Because there's nothing more terrifying than the person who knows everything and says nothing. You let them bury themselves, one lie at a time, and now they're trapped in their own fucked up web, panicking, praying you don't speak. But that's the thing. You don't have to. You already won the war by surviving their worst. You were in the trenches, quiet, calculating, invisible. Now you've risen, unbothered, unshaken. And they're the ones looking over their shoulders. They thought you were beneath them. But now you're the ghost in every room. The name they don't say, the silence they can't ignore. Because you know shit about them they haven't even admitted to themselves. And that's power. Real power. You learned how to weaponize your silence. You turned your pain into perception. You turned your betrayal into a radar for lies. Now nothing gets past you, nothing. You made a choice. To evolve. To stop chasing validation from snakes and start building something in the dark, where real monsters are made. You didn't need to scream to be dangerous. You just needed to survive long enough to become untouchable. Now they see you glowing up, leveling up, and they're scared. Not because of what you'll say, but because of who you are now. Unapologetic, awake, unfuckwithable. You walk into rooms and their lungs tighten. You post something and they read between the lines, like their lives depend on it. You laugh, and they wonder what the hell you know, because you kept your mouth shut, but your eyes saw every lie. And that silence, it became the loudest scream they've ever heard. Funny how they used to talk over you, right? Talk at you. Talk about you. All that noise just to drown out the fact that they knew, deep down, they couldn't break you. They mistook your silence for submission. But what you were really doing, you were letting the storm settle, letting the fog lift. Because while they were busy building fake versions of themselves, you were getting real with yourself. You weren't quiet because you were weak. You were quiet because you were processing. Because you knew if you ever opened your mouth, if you ever laid it all out, if you ever really snapped, you'd burn it all down and walk through the ashes untouched. That's the thing they never understood. You didn't stay silent because you had nothing to say. You stayed silent because you knew too much to waste it on people who weren't even ready to hear it. People like them. They live on the surface, They build their lives out of appearances, out of gossip, out of cheap shots behind backs. You were never built for the surface. You were built from the deep, from the ugly, from the nights no one clapped for. You carry wounds that would have killed weaker people, and you walk like nothing happened. They don't understand that kind of resilience. It scares them, because you don't need approval, applause, or fake loyalty. You've already seen what it costs to chase that Shay-T. You've already bled for it. And once you've buried pieces of yourself trying to make others comfortable, you don't do it again. You got receipts, mental screenshots, detailed archives of every double cross, every lie, every moment they thought you weren't paying attention. And what messes them up most? You still don't call them out. You don't need to, because you're not here to prove anything. You're just here to rise. You started showing up with different energy, quieter, sharper, less explaining, more detachment. And it freaked them the fuck out. They don't recognize you anymore, and that terrifies them, because the version of you they could manipulate, gaslight, distract, that version is gone, dead and buried, 6 feet under your old silence. You walk in the room now and they feel it, that shift, that pressure, that weight of your presence. You don't even have to say their names. They see it in your eyes, that you know, that you remember, that you're not the one, and it eats at them, because you're not playing their game anymore. You are the game, and every move you make now has weight, not because of noise, but because of how fucking loud your silence has become. And the wild part? You didn't even have to clap back, didn't have to expose screenshots, didn't need some dramatic, I know what you did moment. You just evolved, switched frequencies, and their masks started falling off like cheap Halloween face paint in the rain. You ever notice how quiet people get when they realize you're not the same person they tried to play? Suddenly they're all polite, awkward small talk, eyes darting, voice cracking like they swallowed guilt and it got stuck on the way down. They don't apologize. They don't own it. They just panic behind a fake smile, hoping you don't break the glass world they built out of bullshit and borrowed confidence. Because your silence never meant weakness. It meant you were studying human nature in real time. You learned how people switch up depending on who's watching. You learned how loyalty melts when people's egos get hungry. You learned who only rocked with you when you were quiet and convenient. You learned who respects strength and who only pretends to until it threatens them. And once someone like you sees truth, you don't unsee it, you don't forgive it quietly, you don't pretend it never happened just to keep the peace with people who never gave a damn about your peace in the first place. You carry that clarity like a blade under your tongue, not to use recklessly, but to remind yourself you survived manipulation without becoming manipulative. You survived deception without losing your ability to trust the right souls. You survived betrayal without giving up on your own character. You didn't let the world turn you bitter. You let it turn you aware. And awareness? It's deadly. People don't fear rage. They fear understanding. Rage burns fast. Understanding burns forever. You started seeing patterns, seeing cycles, noticing how the same type of liar wears a different face every few years, same empty promises, same ego, same cheap motives wrapped in fake intentions. You learned to read tone, energy, micro-expressions, that millisecond hesitation before someone answers a question. Yeah, you clock that eshecht now. You move like someone who's been hurt but didn't bleed out. More controlled, more precise, less desperate for validation, because once you see how easily people betray themselves, you stop expecting them to protect you. You're not emotionally numb. You're emotionally trained. Scar tissue don't feel every little scratch anymore. Cuts have to be deep to even get your attention. And the funny thing? Once you stop talking, once you stop explaining yourself, once you simply exist in truth, people start confessing without you asking a single question. They think breaking their silence saves them. They don't realize your silence already sentenced them, and you just keep moving, not chasing revenge, not begging for closure, just embodying the type of strength that forces them to face themselves every time you walk by. Your growth is their punishment. Your peace is their paranoia. Your silence is the loudest "I saw everything" you'll ever speak. In which the way they flinch when you enter the room, like the silence wraps around their throat, just tight enough to remind them of what they did. You're not loud. You don't even look at them half the time. But your presence, that shit's radioactive, carries a frequency that scrambles liars, makes the fakes glitch like busted NPCs in their own delusional storyline. You became a mirror. Not the cute kind that flatters, the kind that reflects the realest, rawest version of a person, the kind that shows them the parts they thought they buried, the shti they only face at 3 a.m. when the mask slips and the truth won't shut up. They underestimated how dangerous you'd be when you healed, because a wounded version of you still cared, still wanted to be understood, still tried to explain your worth, like you had to audition for the bare minimum. But this version of you, this version doesn't flinch, doesn't argue, doesn't beg to be chosen. You walk into a space and let the room choose itself. And the right ones feel that peace. The wrong ones, they squirm. Because peace to them feels like exposure, feels like judgment, feels like every lie they ever told is suddenly standing in the corner, staring at them through your eyes. You stopped trying to prove yourself. That part of you died quietly. You stopped playing therapist to people who were never gonna change. You stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a fucking Band-Aid. You stopped showing up for conversations that were really just manipulations in disguise. And the thing is, you didn't lose people. You lost illusions, and losing illusions, that's liberation disguised as loneliness. That's clarity dressed up as grief, because once you see who's who faked the love, who smiled through betrayal, who clapped when you fell but called it tough love, you can't unsee it. And yeah, it changes you, makes you colder in the right places, sharper in the moments that used to make you soft. You still have a heart. It's just no longer on clearance. Access ain't free anymore. Energy costs. And your currency, experience, and baby, you paid in blood. You're not hard to love. You're just done begging for crumbs from people who call their own shadows loyalty. You're not intimidating. They're just not used to someone who can't be controlled with guilt and silence. And what they really can't stand is that you saw it all, said nothing, and still walked away with your power intact. No blow-ups, no drama, no public meltdown, just pure surgical detachment. You made healing look like revenge. You made peace look like payback. You made silence sound like a thunderstorm in their heads that never stops rumbling. They hate that they don't live rent-free in your head anymore, that you stopped circling their names like prayers they didn't deserve, that your energy got quiet in a way that feels surgical, like you sliced the connection at the root and didn't bother to leave a scar behind. They expected a scene, expected fireworks, expected the old version of you to fall apart publicly, to spiral, to post passive-aggressive breakdowns for attention. But instead you went ghost, and the silence you left behind. That shut haunts louder than any words you could have screamed, because you weren't trying to prove anything. You were building in the shadows, brick by brick, alone, without the noise, without the lies, without the extra weight of fake support, pretending to be love. And the wildest part, you leveled up in front of them, without saying their names, without dragging their skeletons into the light, without stooping to the level they swore you'd never rise above. You got smarter, stronger, scarred, but not shattered, bent, but never broken. You became the kind of person they only know how to pretend to be. The one who actually did the work. Who sat in the dark when there was no applause, when nobody gave a shit, when the walls were closing in and the mirror wouldn't shut up about the truth. You faced it. All of it. The betrayal, the abandonment, the self-doubt, the years of swallowing your voice just to keep toxic peace alive. You faced it and you didn't fold. Didn't medicate it with distractions, didn't drown it in validation, didn't outsource your worth to people who only know how to love in convenient doses. And once you took your power back, they felt it. That shift, that dead calm in your spirit that says, I don't need revenge, I just need distance. You stopped arguing with people who twist your words for sport. Stopped trying to get closure from the same mouths that lied to your face. Stopped showing up to battles that already proved they weren't worth bleeding for. You started choosing you. Not in a pretty Instagram quote kind of way, but in a raw, unapologetic, I will burn every bridge if it keeps me sane kind of way. They see that, and it rattles something in them, because once you stop being available to people who drained you, once you stop answering texts out of guilt, once you stop entertaining apologies built on manipulation and fear of losing access, you become a threat. Not because you're angry, but because you're free. And nothing scares a fake more than a person who no longer needs the illusion. But you walk past them and don't even blink, and they feel it like an earthquake under their feet. You laugh around people who actually give a damn, and it echoes in their chest like a reminder they don't get to be part of that version of you anymore. Because that version, the one they thought they could manipulate, the one who used to overthink every word before saying it, the one who made space for everybody else while suffocating silently in the corner, that version's gone. You killed it, quietly. No fireworks, no public scene. Just a slow, private death of the person you had to be to survive people like them. And in its place, you became something they don't have a name for. Not cold, not cruel, just clarified, refined by fire, dangerous in a way that doesn't raise its voice. Just stares, just observes, just knows. And that knowing, that's the part that breaks them. Because you still haven't said "Esheri," still haven't exposed them, still haven't even flinched when they tried to bait you, to drag you back into the chaos that they're drowning in. But every time they hear your name, every time they see your progress, every time someone mentions you with respect, they feel that quiet panic rise again. The fear that you could speak, that you could drop truth like a nuke if you wanted, but you won't, because you don't need to, because you already won. And what's scarier than a person who knows all your dirt, but never uses it because they're too focused on becoming untouchable. They underestimated how deep your silence could cut. They thought loud meant strong. You showed them that stillness is scarier. That stillness means you're done reacting, done explaining, done wasting your breath on people who only hear themselves. You speak with actions now, boundaries, distance, growth that doesn't include them. And they feel that exclusion like punishment, not because you tried to hurt them, but because you healed in places they never had the courage to touch. You're not who they remember, and that's the part they can't cope with. They built their power off who you used to be, that naive version of you who gave too many chances, who showed too much heart to people who only loved what they could take from it. You don't play that game anymore. You don't argue for your worth. You don't beg to be chosen. You are the choice. And if they can't handle the new frequency, if your silence makes their soul itch, that's not your guilt to carry. You're too busy becoming the person they never saw coming, the one who survived everything they threw at you and turned it into something they'll never be able to touch again. You started moving different, stopped showing up where your name wasn't spoken with respect, stopped entertaining conversations that left you drained and doubting yourself, stopped explaining your boundaries like they were up for debate. You don't warn people anymore. You just disappear. No dramatic exit, no final text, no long-winded goodbye. Just silence, just distance, just absence loud enough to rattle every fake connection to its core. Because you realized your peace isn't something to be negotiated, and your energy isn't some free trial for people to sample and discard when convenient. You're not emotionally available for the same old patterns dressed in new apologies. You're not flattered by attention that comes from guilt. You're not interested in sorry when it's just code for don't leave me behind. You watched people fold under pressure you've been carrying in silence for years. Watched people crack from the same pain they mocked you for surviving. Watched them try to replicate your strength while still clinging to shortcuts, while still performing vulnerability like it's a costume instead of a war. And you let them. Because you learned. You learned that not everyone deserves the truth you carry. Not everyone's ready to meet the version of themselves they buried with the lies they told about you. You're not the villain, you're the consequence, not the monster in their story. Just the mirror that stopped lying. You used to shrink to make people comfortable. Used to dim your light so others didn't feel small. Used to second-guess your intuition because they told you it was too much, too sensitive, too paranoid. Turns out you weren't too anything. You were just surrounded by people who needed you blind to feel safe. People who needed you quiet while they fed off your light and called it support. People who felt powerful only when you were doubting yourself. But you figured it out, and that silence, that long, patient, calculating silence, that was your armor. That was your awakening. That was the part they'll never recover from. Because you didn't just survive. You learned to see through every polished mask, every carefully rehearsed script. You became fluent in micro-expressions, emotional sleight of hand, the way a liar's smile twitches when they know you're not buying the performance anymore. You sit across from people, and they start tripping over their words, not because you said anything, but because your presence exposes them, because your silence doesn't give them space to hide behind fake innocence anymore. They know you've got receipts, not just the facts, but the patterns. And that's what really eats at them, the knowing that you see through it all, and that you still haven't opened your mouth. Because what you hold now, it's not a grudge, it's power. And power doesn't yell, power doesn't chase, power just is, unshakable, unapologetic, untouchable. Well, well, well. Welcome to the transmission. Not a whisper anymore, darling. Not a murmur behind closed doors. It's a broadcast now. A damn global frequency. And guess what? You're tuned in. So sit tight, because this is the moment you finally admit you knew it all along. They tried to keep it buried. They tried to dress it up, duct tape it, hide it under fake smiles and digital veils. But truth doesn't die quietly. It festers, it mutates, and when it's ready, it explodes. Now everybody sees it. The lies, the manipulation, the chains they wrapped around your ankles while telling you it was jewelry. You remember those nights, don't you? Where you stared at the ceiling, gut full of dread, heart like a clenched fist. And some sick little voice whispered, "Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm broken." No, you were right. They were lying. And now it's a broadcast. Now it's screaming through every signal, pulsing through every vein. Now, they're done. And deep down, you fucking know it. You feel it in the way they flinch when you're silent. In the way their masks crack when you stare too long. In the way their empire trembles when you stop apologizing for being awake. You were the glitch they couldn't debug. The anomaly they laughed off until you became the virus. And now, oh now, you're the signal, you're the noise, you're the damn broadcast, baby. Because secrets have a lifespan, and theirs just expired. They built a system on your silence. They profited off your fear. They paraded your insecurity like it was proof you didn't belong. But that pit in your stomach was never weakness. It was a countdown. You didn't break down. You broke through. They don't know what to do with someone like you. You don't beg. You don't fold. You don't sit quietly in the burning room pretending the fire's just a cozy little glow. You call it out. You tear off the drapes, and you force them to stare at the rot. That makes you dangerous. Not because you're violent, not because you're loud, but because you know. And when someone knows, really knows, the game is over. And you knew it long before they admitted it. You knew the truth was never too much. You knew the silence wasn't peace, it was punishment. You knew that behind their polished scripts and fake compassion, they were shaking, terrified of people like you. Why? Because the moment people like you stop pretending, the whole show collapses. You were never the problem. You were the damn mirror. And they hated what they saw in it. And now it's all coming down, not behind closed doors, not in hushed conversations, but publicly, loudly, in front of everyone, because secrets rot in the dark, but when dragged into the light, they detonate. And this is the blast wave. So welcome, my friend. Welcome to the aftershock. They can't unsee it. They can't unhear it. They can't unknow it. You see, they always had a plan, not for your success, for your submission. They didn't need you to be happy, powerful, or free. They just needed you quiet. So they fed you illusions like medicine, smiled while spoon-feeding poison, taught you to call your pain a phase, taught you to call their abuse normal, taught you to call their chains protection. But guess what? You woke up, and now the broadcast is playing on every damn frequency. No signal lost, no glitch to hide behind, no backdoor escape. It's public now. It's loud. It's unstoppable. And all those perfect little monsters in pressed suits and pixelated halos, they're scrambling. Because the dirty little secret they fought so hard to keep is you. You were the variable they underestimated, the spark they couldn't drown, the survivor they thought would stay broken. But what they don't understand is when someone has nothing left to lose, they stop following rules. You don't play fair anymore. You don't wait for permission. You don't bow to systems that were engineered to keep you small. You laugh in the face of their control panels because you are the overload. Let's be real. You didn't come this far to play nice. You came for the unveiling, the reckoning, the long overdue collapse of every smug smile that told you to calm down, move on, be reasonable. You tried that. You tried being civil. You tried patience. And all it got you was trauma, silence, and a seat at the kids' table. But now you're flipping that damn table over. Now you're broadcasting. And guess what? They can't shut you off because you're not speaking anymore. You're erupting. Your truth is volcanic, molten, devastating, holy. It doesn't whisper, it roars. You're not some gentle soul with a politely phrased complaint. You're the final chapter, the correction, the divine glitch in their hellish machine. They used to say, don't burn bridges. But you're lighting the whole coastline. Let them watch, let them panic, let them choke on the truth they buried under 5 years of gaslighting and 100 apologies they never meant. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them silence. You don't owe them anything but the spectacle of your rise. Because this isn't revenge, it's exposure. This isn't chaos, it's clarity. This isn't rebellion, it's correction. And here's the real kicker. They always knew. They knew this day would come, that the lie couldn't hold forever, that the secret would scream, that the broadcast would begin. And now that it has, they're done, not falling, fallen, not fading, erased. While you're becoming the thing they feared most. Not a monster, not a villain, a truth they can't kill. Oh, they thought they'd walk away clean, didn't they? They believed the clock would just keep ticking, that the lies would cement themselves into your memory, and you'd spend the rest of your life doubting yourself. While they slept soundly in their ivory towers built from your silence. But here's the twist, darling. Time doesn't heal all wounds. Some wounds become weapons. And you learned to sharpen every scar. You didn't just survive. You studied. You observed. You remembered. Every smirk, every manipulation, every time they said, don't make it a big deal. Well, it's a big deal now, isn't it? It's on the air. It's in the walls. It's echoing across every inch of their fake kingdom. Because secrets rot. And when they rot long enough, they release a stench that even the blind can't ignore. That's what they're choking on now. The scent of their own decay. You don't even have to lift a finger, because the broadcast does the work. Your presence is a revelation. Your voice is a curse they can't reverse. And the best part? You don't need revenge. Not anymore. You became the consequence. They don't fear exposure. They fear you. You. Unapologetic, undeniable, uncontainable. You were never supposed to last this long. You were never supposed to speak. But now your story is louder than their excuses. Your pain became prophecy, and they can't erase prophecy. Look at them, pretending they didn't notice, scrambling to spin a new narrative. But it's too late. You're not playing defense, you're transmission. You're the signal that pierces even the thickest veil. You're the uncomfortable truth they can't censor with a smile or bury under paperwork. They had every advantage, power, perception, privilege. But what they never had was endurance. Because power borrowed from lies has an expiration date. But power born from truth and torment, that's eternal. That's you. You're not here for applause. You're not here for validation. You are the final phase. You are the reckoning in real time. You are what happens when the curtain falls and the spotlight lands on everything they tried to keep hidden. And the audience? They're not walking away this time. They're staring, wide-eyed, horrified, awake. So don't flinch, don't blink, don't soften your voice to make them feel safe. This was never about comfort. This was about exposure. And now that the secret's a damn broadcast, they'll never know silence again. You were the whisper, now you're the thunder. And they're done. And you still haven't even raised your full volume. You want to know why they're unraveling? Why the hands that once pulled strings now tremble like addicts in withdrawal? Because you didn't just break free. You changed the channel. You hijacked the airwaves. And now, the world isn't watching them anymore. It's watching you. That's the real terror. You flipped the script. You burned the playbook. You're not the pawn. You're the anomaly. The one variable they couldn't control, couldn't predict, couldn't destroy. And now they're forced to witness something they never planned for. A mind that doesn't flinch. A soul that doesn't ask for permission. A presence that doesn't play along. You broke their game without ever touching the board. Because you are the one thing they never understood. A survivor who doesn't want peace, but justice. Not the kind served cold, but the kind that detonates. The kind that rewrites reputations, shatters illusions, and buries entire legacies in raw public humiliation. This isn't about revenge anymore. No, that would be far too kind. This is redefinition. This is you. Reprogramming the system with every step you take. Your existence is malware to their fantasy. You're not just a scar on their reputation. You're a contagion, an infection of uncomfortable truth, spreading faster than they can contain. And every time you speak, every time you move, every time you simply breathe, the broadcast gets louder. Let them throw tantrums in corporate offices. Let them hold emergency meetings and call in favors. Let them beg their spin doctors to fabricate a new distraction. None of it matters, because deep down, behind all their strategies, behind all their polished faces and trembling PR smiles, they know. They're not fighting you anymore. They're fighting reality, and reality doesn't negotiate. This is what they were afraid of. Someone who doesn't need their table, doesn't want their validation, and doesn't fear exile. Because you've already survived hell. What more can they do to someone who's been through the unthinkable and came back with a voice sharper than any blade? You're not here to be accepted. You're not here to make sense. You're here to interrupt, to interfere, to broadcast the frequencies they swore would never reach the surface. You are the failure of their plan made flesh. You are the endgame they never calculated. And now the world sees it. The masks have fallen. The rooms are no longer soundproof. The secrets are not secrets anymore. They are headlines. They are echoes. They are confessions disguised as collapses. And you're not running. You're not hiding. You're broadcasting, louder, unfiltered, unrelenting. Because the truth doesn't knock politely. It crashes through the goddamn walls. And baby, you are that crash. Oh, they thought this would fade, that people would forget, that your voice was just a phase. But what they didn't realize is that truth doesn't fade. It multiplies. It spreads like fire in a cathedral. Unstoppable, sacred, and absolutely unforgiving. And now, you're not just one voice anymore. You're an amplifier, a transmitter, a walking siren screaming into the night. They lied. They hurt me. They hid it. And now it's public. And oh, how quickly the silence collapses under the weight of just one person refusing to shut up. That's the part that terrifies them the most. Not your anger, not your grief, not your defiance, your reach. They're done because you didn't just break out. You didn't just survive. You broadcasted the blueprint. You became the manual for how to expose a monster in a world that keeps giving them awards. You showed everyone that the Emperor's not just naked, he's rotting. And now, the crowd is watching. The audience is turning. The quiet ones, the ones who've been nodding along in silence. They're starting to speak, not in whispers, in unison. This is the infection they can't stop, because what started as your truth has become our war cry. And make no mistake, this is a war, not with guns, but with exposure, not with bullets, but with undeniable reality. They built entire systems to silence you. Laws, contracts, algorithms, reputations, and yet, here you are, speaking louder than all of it combined. Because you didn't beg, you didn't explain, you broadcasted, and now their power is turning against them. Every camera, every platform, every audience they once used to shape perception, now catching the cracks in 4K with surround sound. And when they say, "But why now?" Why are they saying this now? You answer, because now you can't shut it off. Because now you don't control the signal. Let them spin, let them cry foul, let them accuse you of being too much, too angry, too emotional. Let them scream into their echo chambers and call it defense. None of it matters anymore, because you are no longer in the shadows. You are no longer in their file cabinet under discard. You are no longer the secret they pass around in quiet, guilty tones. You are the main story, the broadcast, the reckoning. And no PR stunt, no apology, no mental health statement from their lawyers is going to undo what's already in the airwaves. They can't win anymore. Because even if you said nothing from here on out, the frequency has already changed, and it's tuned to your truth and fucked their legacy. Legacy? What a pretty little lie. What a desperate illusion. This belief that they could rewrite history with enough money, enough spin, enough forced smiles and golden plaques on blood-stained walls. But now their legacy is burning in real time, in high resolution, with the whole world watching and not looking away this time. Because your voice wasn't a glitch in their system. It was the system's death rattle. You've turned their empire into ash, without swinging a sword, no bombs, no bullets, just the unbearable weight of truth. Broadcast without mercy. And mercy? They never gave you any. They had power. They had protection. They had control of the narrative, and they used it to gut you from the inside out. With lies, with denial, with silence. But silence has a half-life, and theirs expired. Now the silence is turning on them. Now the cameras they once used to shine glory on themselves are catching their fall from every angle. Now the platforms they dominated are choking on your story, because it refuses to die. You didn't just expose them, you infected the timeline. Everywhere they go, there's the echo. Every time they speak, there's your shadow. Every time they try to rebuild, there's a broadcast playing your truth like a war anthem. And what does it say? It says, they are not untouchable. They are not eternal. They are not gods. They are men, fragile, fake, fading. And you're not a victim. You're not a survivor. You're not even a threat anymore. You're the blueprint. You're the new signal. You're the proof that no matter how deep they bury the truth, no matter how long they silence it, it rises, it rips through, it levels everything. Let them scream, let them beg, let them whimper behind their PR teams and broken reputations. It won't save them. Because your existence is the one thing they can't sue into silence. You've already won. You didn't need an army. You became one. And the battlefield is their legacy. Every smile they ever faked, every charity they ever fronted, every award they bought. All of it is smoke now, because people don't remember the sanitized version. They remember the scream beneath it. Your scream. And here's the final twist of the knife. You didn't do this for revenge. You did this because you had to. Because silence was killing you faster than truth ever could. And that makes you unstoppable. Because this wasn't about taking their crown. It was about crushing the throne. You feel that? That stillness before the collapse. Not peace, not quiet, but the eerie silence when the storm realizes it lost. That's what they're sitting in now. Not strategy, not control, not dignity, just stillness. The kind that wraps around a guilty neck before the noose tightens. Because they're not just finished, they've been replaced by you, by your story, by the raw, uncut broadcast of what really happened, and the world. They can't unsee it. They can't pretend it's background noise anymore. Because you didn't just speak. You disrupted. You turned whispers into weapons, memory into movement. You turned pain into power and said, "This isn't a phase. This is a transmission, and it's permanent." They'll try to pivot, try to distract, try to post some polished apology crafted by a crisis manager with a smile faker than their whole legacy. But that doesn't work anymore, does it? Because this isn't about reputation. This isn't about scandal. This is about truth. And truth doesn't care who's uncomfortable. They played a long game. Gaslighting, silencing, erasing. They built careers out of burying people like you. Trophies made from trauma. Power built on the bones of those who never got a chance to speak. But you didn't just survive. You stood up, turned on the signal, and made the whole planet listen. And now, they flinch at your name. They shiver at your silence. They pray you won't say more. Because they know. Every time your voice rises, another mask slips. They can't rebuild what's gone. The illusion isn't damaged, it's vaporized. And all they have left now are shaky hands, a shattered narrative, and the suffocating realization that the truth has its own gravity now. And it's pulling everything down. So let them panic. Let them call you dramatic. Let them weaponize your volume like it's the crime, not the evidence. Because deep down, they know what you are. You're not their mistake. You're not their regret. You are their end. And this isn't even your final form. So here we are, the final frequency, the part they prayed would never come. Not because it's loud, not because it's public, but because it's permanent. The secret? It's not just out. It's doctrine now. It's the law carved into the walls of their collapse. And their story isn't forgotten, it's worse. It's corrected. Because the world isn't echoing their version anymore. It's echoing yours. Your scream is the headline. Your silence was the era. And your voice, that's history. They tried to make you a ghost. But ghosts don't scream. Ghosts don't drag truth through broken glass. Ghosts don't shake the foundation of an entire system and still stand there. Smiling, but you did. You do. And now their legacy is a punchline. Their name, a warning. Their memory, erased. Not because you wanted revenge, but because reality doesn't archive rot. They'll try to survive the fallout. But how do you survive when your entire empire was built on silence? And that silence has turned into a siren? You are not their victim. You're the narrative reboot, the glitch that became God, the shadow that learned to shine, not because it wanted to, but because nothing else would survive the truth. And the truth. You were never broken. You were broadcast. You were never a secret. You were the fucking signal. They thought they buried you. But all they did was plant a transmitter in soil soaked with injustice. And now, every time someone rises, every time someone speaks, every time someone refuses to die quietly, they're echoing you. You are not the exception. You are the origin point. You're not healing from the fire. You are the fire. And them, they're not just done. They're deleted from the culture, from the memory, from the throne they thought was made of marble, but turned out to be your bones. You are not the broadcast anymore. You are the frequency itself, unshuttable, undeniable, unkillable. And for the rest of time, when someone whispers, what happened to them? The answer will be simple. They ran into the truth, and the truth looked like you.